Welcome back. We are here with UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. Once again, we are out traveling this week, so you did not miss our recap video for UFC 304. It will be included this coming week with the results for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. With that being said, let's jump right into the predictions. Starting off in the heavyweight division, we have Shamil Gaziev versus Don'Tale Mayes. Gaziev is a quitter with no gas tank. If he can finish Mayes in the first 2 rounds, that is his way to victory. If the fight goes to a decision, then you might as well flip a coin. Mayes is a 50-50 fighter in the UFC and was submitted by Cyril Gane, so that shows you the quality of his wrestling and spirit. The books have Shamil as a moderate favorite, and since it's only a 3-round fight, it looks like the prediction model likes Shamil as well, so that's where we'll be placing our bet. Next up in the lightweight division, we have Muhammad Yahya versus Cal Fernandez. This is Yahya's second fight in the UFC, with the first one being a loss to Trevor Peek. His pro career is over 10 years long with a 12-4 record. Fernandez also has a career spanning 10-plus years with a record of only 8-2. This will also be his second fight in the UFC. His first UFC fight was a loss to Mark Diakese at the end of last year. The model, once again, is in line with the books, not quite as heavy, but we do have Fernandez as a decent favorite, and so that's where we'll be placing our wager this week. Moving on to 185 pounds, we have Cedric Dumas versus Dennis Tululin. Dumas got his shot in the UFC by getting a guillotine choke on Tuesday Night Contender Series. He then immediately lost by Gilly in his next fight. Tululin is on a 3-fight skid and has won only 1 of his 5 fights in the UFC. He does seem to be in exciting fights though, only winning or losing via finish. Taking a look at the stats, they are very similar in height, reach. The books have Dumas as a moderate favorite, with the model being much closer, having Cedric as a very slight favorite. Back in the lightweight division, we have Jai Herbert versus Rolando Bedoya. Herbert's UFC record of 2-4-1 does not look good, but there is some consolation when you see the majority of his losses came to the likes of Trinaldo, Moicano, and Topuria. He is going up against Bedoya, who came into the UFC about a year ago and has since lost both fights. Bedoya has also been at welterweight since 2017, so this will be his first time back to lightweight to see if he can find a spark for his career. The model has this very close to the books, but the odds are flipped. So we will be taking Ronaldo Bedoya as the slight underdog at plus 115. Our first women's fight of the night is going to be at strawweight with Victoria Dudikova versus Sam Hughes. Dudikova is undefeated, with the only blemish on her record being that she missed weight in her last fight. Hughes at 8-6 is a roster filler and appears to be the next stepping stone in Dudikova's career. Dudikova should easily cruise to victory in this fight. The books have her as a minus 185 favorite, but our model matches our feelings in this case and has her as a moderate favorite at minus 239. Moving up to light heavyweight, we have Alonzo Menefield versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. Menefield is coming off a stunning loss to Carlos Ulberg in his last fight, and that broke his 4-fight win streak. Mirzakhanov is undefeated at 13-0, but he has pulled out of his last 2 scheduled fights. This could be a back-and-forth fight of the night contender, or Menefield could get dropped early again. He is probably coming back too soon from that brutal KO only 2 months ago. The model does have this as a closer fight than the books, but there is a clear favorite here, and so we're placing our wager on Mirzakhanov. At 155 pounds, we have Joel Alvarez versus Elvis Brenner. Brenner has only ever lost by decision, including his last fight to Miktabek Oralbai. Prior to that, he had 2 consecutive TKOs. Otherwise, the vast majority of his wins are by submission. Alvarez is much the same, having 17 wins by sub. If the jiu-jitsu skills are awash and the fight is forced to stay on the feet, Brenner has the stronger chin and will be looking for the finish. In this case, the model does not agree, and has Alvarez as a decent favorite, even stronger than what the book odds are showing. Next up, in the welterweight division, we have a very sad day. Tony Ferguson will lose, and there is not much else to be said. In his last fight, he was submitted by Bobby Green. That was Green's first submission finish since 2013. Chiesa is not a good fighter, but unfortunately, you do not have to be very good to beat Tony Ferguson these days. Chiesa has lost by Darce choke in 2 of his last 3 fights, so there's your 1 in a million chance if you really want to bet on Ferguson. The model agrees with me at minus 128 for Michael Chiesa. This is a big risk. The books do have it at minus 400 for Michael Chiesa, but we are going to take those odds and place that bet. Back in the women's strawweight division, we have Mackenzie Dern versus Lupita Godinez. Dern is on a 2-fight losing streak for the first time in her career. She has split her victories between subs and decisions. Godinez dropped her last fight to Jandiroba, but was on a 4-fight win streak prior to that. She does have 3 submission wins, but that will be hard to pull off against Dern. Her 9 wins by decision make that her best path to victory. The book has this as a true pick'em at minus 110. The model, though, is showing Lupita to be a decent favorite at minus 135, and so we are hoping that Mackenzie continues her skid and loses to Lupita Godinez. The feature bout on this card takes place at bantamweight between Chito Vera and Davison Figueiredo. At 5'5", Davison seems short for the division, but he has proven this is no issue for him. He has had 2 wins since moving up to 135, but both of these opponents have fallen off in recent years. Vera is coming off a loss in his recent, probably undeserved title challenge. Despite this, he still represents the top of the division and is fighting to stay there. Both of these guys are extremely exciting and pushing double digits in both KO, TKO, and submission finishes. We expect this to be one of the best fights of the night. Looking at the odds, the bookmakers slightly favored Davison in this one, and the model odds are not so sure, but still give the edge to Figgy. At 185 pounds, we have our co-main event between Shara Magomedov and Mikhail Olenjachuk. Shara is still undefeated at 13-0 with 3 knockouts in his last 5 fights. His opponent, Mikhail, has a record of 19-8 with 2 TKOs in his last 5. Unfortunately, the other 3 were all submission losses. Magomedov does not have a single submission in his career, but if he does have that skill set, now would be the time to use it. The bookies prefer Shara in this fight at minus 255, while the model sees this as a much closer fight. We do believe that Magomedov will get it done here, and so we are happy to lay this bet. Closing out the card, we have a bantamweight top contender bout between Corey Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov. Corey has a record of 17-4 with his 3 promotional losses, all coming to former champions. Umar is still undefeated at 17-0, but it could be argued that he hasn't faced the same level of competition. Umar prefers a wrestling-heavy style with a lot of submission finishes on his record, while Sandhagen is a dynamic striker with plenty of finishes by KO. The books have Umar as a moderate favorite here at minus 235, and while the model doesn't have as much conviction, it does see him winning this fight as well. Taking a look at the stats for this week, we have 12 total wagers. 11 of those are favorites, including the minus 110 pick'em fight on Lupita Godinez. Only 1 underdog this week. With this many bets on favorites, it does put a risk at our bankroll. If we lose too many of the minus 350, minus 400s, or anything higher than that, it is hard to make up ground and get back into the positive on the week. Our total risk was 26.25 units with a potential win of 38.4 units. This would give us a profit of 12.15 unit if we cash every ticket. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And this coming week, we will be back to our normal schedule.